So normally here you'd be seeing me cover one dark horror topic after another. Maybe talking about different horror movies like, indie movies, like Skinamarink or Terrifier. Maybe covering basically the one video game that I play, Five Nights at Freddy's. Maybe covering Stephen King books, talking about old out-of-print 80s and 90s books, like books by authors like Richie Tankersley-Cusick, Christopher Pike, and the likes. Or maybe talking about mystery books like a Nancy Drew, or mystery that has a horror twist to it. But today thought I'd talk about something that I haven't covered on this page before. Something that's going to be very different. This is the story of how I discovered about 3.5 months ago that I found out that I was Therian. Now, the exact date that I kind of discovered the animal in me, I don't remember. I have it in a book full of different Therian experiences that I have documented. This is going to be the word of the video, Therian. Now, this video is not going to be on this page for very long. Probably only a week, 2 weeks, depending on how I feel. But yeah, I will be deleting this video at some point, or taking it down. So the story starts 2 weeks before being in this room with about 4 or 5 others. I'll get into this room in a minute. I started having these urges to act more like an animal, I would say. There's no easier way to put it. This is not an easy video to do. I'm not going to go too deep into these animal-like urges, but I would start having these urges to be more like an animal than a human. And so these urges went on for about 2 weeks, and then I was in this room where there's a table kind of right here. Now, on the farther side of the table, there's 3 chairs with 3 people sitting in them. I didn't really know these people all that well. Of course, I'd seen them before, just they were more acquaintances. And on the other side of the table with me was a friend of mine that I met during COVID. And they were showing all of us these movements that I would later learn were quadruplics. And then I pulled them aside because they were checking off boxes for certain things that I was experiencing. And then we gave phone numbers in case I had questions about this Therian stuff going forward. And so, after being in that room later that evening, I said to myself, why not try meditation? So I do meditation, and then I text this person about it, telling them how I felt like this, kind of like a tingling sensation in all over where you wouldn't have them. So I felt this sensation kind of at the bottom of my back where I thought a tail would be, in the tips of your toes and your fingertips for claws. And after I texted this person about what I had experienced that night, they said it was a step in the right direction. And so I continued doing these meditations and documenting them, writing down the dates. And then one day I did a meditation, and I saw these tall, skinny trees. Some of them were very skinny, some of them were extremely tall, but had these thick tree trunks. And so, after seeing this, I I did some research about what these trees were, and it turns out that these trees were redwood trees. I texted this person about what I had experienced, and they said it was another step in the right direction. So I continued doing meditations. About, I don't know, sometime later, I don't know precise dates. They're all in this notebook that I have, but I'm not going to pull out the notebook. Just me talking right now. So, I did one meditation one day, and even though I was interrupted, I immediately was able to get back into it. And I'd been seeing the redwood trees for a little while at this point. Nothing else, just redwood trees. Excuse me. And then, at one point, I saw this floating wolf's head. And then on either side of this floating wolf's head were these spinning shapes. Or the only way I could describe them were them looking like windmills. Like the part that actually spins on a windmill, looking like that. To this day, I don't really know what those shapes were. From what I can remember, sometimes you remember a lot from meditations, sometimes you don't, or at least in my experience, that's what it's like. Now, after seeing these spinning windmills on either side of this wolf's head, I documented a bit about it, wrote it down in the notebook, and told this person, sent them another text. And turns out that was the day I discovered that I was a gray wolf from the redwood forest. They said if I was sure, then yeah. They said if I was sure that I was, then start doing more wolfish things. One of the key things throughout this whole process was to keep questioning. Don't immediately jump to conclusions that, oh, I am this. Like, I am an otter, for example, or I am a bear. But, yeah, they said if I was sure that I was a wolf, then, yeah, I was a wolf. Turned out after doing some more research, there are gray wolves in the redwood forest. Especially in I think most of the gray wolves that are in these redwood forests. What am I talking about? Plural redwood forests. To my knowledge, there could be others. But I am a gray wolf from the redwood forest of California in specific. I'm sure there's other redwood forests. The world is huge. But, yeah, that is basically the story of how I discovered I was Therian. Sorry, my finger's on the camera there. Basically the story of how I discovered I was Therian. The word of the day. Therian. And, yeah, basically it's a journey of self-discovery, being Therian. And you do have shifts from time to time, like a physical shift where you may feel your phantom limbs. Like for me, it'd be my claws, either on my fingertips or my toes, or it can be my tail that I feel. Sometimes it may even be my ears, kind of like right here. It's an interesting feeling. But, yeah. I am Therian, and this video will not be on this page for very long. Thank you if you did understand this weird and bizarre story. And goodbye for now.